My screen. So I guess I'll start by saying who on earth I am. um, I worked for Apple for just under 10 years. And I started working for Apple when they were still very much kind of desperately clinging on to life. Um, and I started working in the Apple stores when people still referred to them as the iPod shop rather than the Mac place. So in those days, it was a real struggle to get people to switch to using a Mac. You had to really sell it. So much so that I remember in those days, we literally would have to go out onto the streets and drag customers into the shop because they were so uninterested in anything Apple. And then the iPod changed that. And then a few years later, the iPhone massively changed that. So whilst I was at Apple, I was a training developer. So I used to deliver training to staff and to visitors to the Apple stores. And I used to develop the European-wide training materials for staff and to teach them how to get across the technology that we were trying to show people. So that's a bit about me. I left there in 2012 and I started my own business just offering tech support and web design and things like that for people in London. And that's what I've been doing ever since. And since then, I've gone back to university and I'm now studying to be a psychotherapist. So bit all over the place. But yeah, Macs has really been have been a big part of my life for a very long time. And I think my angle is that I'm not a techie person. And so actually I think the way I use Macs and the way I talk about the things that I use on Macs connects better with the average user rather than coming from a techie perspective. It's coming from somebody who wants stuff that just works well and easily and simply. So yeah, that's a bit about me. So today we're going to be talking about two things. The larger part of it is going to be about the Safari extensions. And then the second half, we'll take a quick look at the Shortcuts app on the Mac. And then there'll be some time, hopefully at the end, for some just general Q&A and any other things you might want to talk about. So I'm going to jump into sharing my screen. I'll just open up my presentation. Okay. So if I share that, let me know. Can you see my screen now?
I can see your screen.
Super. I'll continue. So yes, this is just a thing about me. So you can see I know 99% about Apple and 0.01% about Excel and 1% about not Apple. Yeah. So Safari extensions. So Safari extensions have actually been around for quite a long time, but they never really got the kind of attention that they probably deserved. And for a very long time, a lot of people would switch to using Chrome instead of Safari because Chrome seemed to have a lot more in the way of things that you could add and extra features that you could turn on. So a lot of people 10 years ago, 10 years or so ago, would switch to Chrome. I've always been a bit of a Safari purist, and even in the days when it wasn't the fastest browser, I still stuck with it because I do generally think Safari is the safest browser on a Mac, of the big ones anyway. And of course, because it's made by Apple, it's built within the operating system, so all of the features are designed to work with everything else. So Safari extensions have always been there, but Apple have never really properly pushed them until recently. So now they actually have a dedicated place on the App Store, whereas before they used to have this very weird page on apple.com and it was very hard to find new extensions. You had to go to find third-party developers' websites to find the extensions, whereas now they're actually in-house with the App Store. A major change which happened quite recently is they have allowed it so that Chrome extensions can now be quite easily converted and used in Safari. So the big problem has always been for developers who are making these extensions, they would have to make an extension for every possible type of browser out there. So most of them would be faced with the choice, do I bother with Safari or do I just make a Chrome extension? And that will reach more people. So that's why there seems to be many, many more Chrome extensions. However, in I think last year's presentation, they talked about making it very easy for developers to just port across their Chrome extensions. So over the last 6 months, there's been a lot more extensions coming forward, and hopefully if more developers kind of jump on that, then you'll start to see the similar amount of extensions that you have on Chrome. But basically, an extension is a tiny little app which is just within the web browser itself. And the extensions now, since last year, can also be found on iOS, on iPhone and iPad. So until last year, they were only available on the Mac itself. And now some of them are available on iOS. Not all of them, just some of the select ones which Apple have approved. But basically what they allow you to do is unlock new features that you don't natively have within the browser. And because we spend most of our time on our computers in a browser, it makes sense that it's something that you can customize and make relevant to what you do. So the most common one that people might have heard of is for blocking content, which I'll talk about in a second. So AdBlock. AdBlock's one of the oldest extensions, and AdBlock is literally something that just blocks adverts across the internet. When people are surfing the web, adverts that just randomly pop up and play actually severely drain the battery of the computer. If you're using a laptop, all of those adverts that display all over a web page that you're on will be draining the power of your computer. So AdBlock seem to claim that you can save a huge amount of your battery life by blocking adverts. They also claim to block malware and the tracking that happens with ads, stopping companies from being able to follow you across the internet. So their plugin is very, very simple. All that they do is just passively in the background block ads. And so if you have an ad that would normally appear on a page, once you've had AdBlock turned on, you would just see a gray rectangle where that advert would be. If I just come out of the presentation for a second and then come into Safari. So the way to find extensions is through the Mac App Store. And if we go to categories, there will be a section for Safari extensions. And this is the new page, which wasn't there before. So it just lists all the top most popular ones there. And if we search for AdBlock, there's the first one. So I'm just going to install that now. And it installs just like any app does. Prior to this method of doing things, it used to be quite complicated. You had to download them, double click them, and then give a whole set of permissions for it to access things. Whereas now it's just like installing an app. There's not really any difference between the two things. Just sign in. So now that's downloading and installing. And I'll just wait for that to finish. Open. And you'll see in Safari now it's saying that a new extension has been added. Do I want to turn it on? Yes, I do. So when I click on there, it takes me to my list of extensions in Safari. And you can see that AdBlocker actually has lots of parts to it that kind of do different things. So I'm just going to turn those all on. So now if I visit a website, let's think of one that will have some adverts. Let's go to, can anyone think of a website with adverts? Most of the British ones are all blocked.
Weather.com.
Sorry?
Weather.com.
Weather. Oh, okay. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So you can see it's done a good job already of blocking most. I'm assuming in this blank space on the right is where a lot of adverts would have been. So it's usually very, very good at hiding stuff that you don't need to see. When we click up here where a little button has been placed, sometimes you might visit a website that just actually doesn't work when you have an ad blocker turned on. And some websites are savvy to the fact that a lot of people are blocking ads, so they'll put some code on their website so that the actual main content doesn't display either. So in those situations, you are able to kind of temporarily pause the ad blocking. So now it's going to reload the page. And now all the adverts have come back. Oh, blimey, that's really annoying. The same ones over and over again as well. And then below that, you've got granular controls. So you can say for this specific website, weather.com, you might want to allow ads or allow comments or a particular thing to happen. So that's the standard kind of way that the ad blocker works. And there are lots of different ones. This is just one of many. Most of them will have premium versions and free versions. So AdBlock standard is free, but you can see here there's lots of other options that you can get by paying usually a monthly fee. I don't know if that's necessarily worth it. But if you're a control freak, you might want to be really drilled down into what a website can and can't do for you. But I just use the standard ad block, just have it turned on. And like I said, 99% of the time it works fine and I don't need to do anything. So that's the first extension. If we come back to our presentation. Play. The next one I'm going to talk about is Honey. This is a controversial one because actually I think a lot of people are quite suspicious about anything that monitors what you're up to and what you're doing. I guess the hard truth is if you use any web service, Amazon, Google, whatever, apart from Apple actually, whatever you do is monitored constantly anyway. And the idea behind Honey is that you might as well benefit from that monitoring. So what Honey does is when you visit a website that sells something, it searches the entire internet for either other shops that sell that item cheaper, or it tries to automatically apply discount codes that it would have found. And it does work pretty well, actually. So if I exit here and we come here. So I'm going to go to a big one in the UK is johnlewis.com. So if I search for, I don't know, let's search for an iPad. So I already have Honey pre-installed up here. So when I click on Honey, it should hopefully do something. Oh. Oh, no, it is loading. Oh, actually, let me disable AdBlock because AdBlock could also be blocking extensions. So I'm going to turn that off temporarily. Oops. Okay. Okay. So you see, now I visited a website with a product. There's now a 16 that's appeared over the top of the Honey logo. So when I tap on there, it should, in a second, give me some suggestions. So, oh, it's saying that this one has got some coupons, but the last successful one was only 3 months ago. So it has dug up some coupons, but none of them are relevant to iPads, unfortunately. I'm buying vacuum cleaners. But what's also quite cool is there's quite a community that's formed around Honey. So people, when they find a code, they'll upload it to Honey as well. So yeah, but because it's a passive thing, you don't have to actively keep checking. It's just whenever you go to buy something, just see if there's a little red dot on your Honey logo, and that'll tell you that there might be something that you could apply. Another thing that they do is they will kind of reward people for allowing them to kind of monitor what you're buying by sharing affiliate money with you. So if you visit a website which they're an affiliate of, they will get money for your click through to that website, but they also share a percentage with you, which they call Honey Gold. And so that Honey Gold you can then exchange for things and build up a kind of cache of and buy bigger things. So yeah, they are a big company. They're across the world now. So they started in America, I think, and now they're in most of the world. But yes, people do worry about things like this because they are actively monitoring what you're doing. But I guess that's no different to what Amazon and Google are doing. It's just that in this scenario, you can potentially save some money too. So so I use it, and I've used it. I think the biggest saving I had was about £85 for a Dyson Hoover. It saved me, so it can work out really well. Right. Oh, there's a chat. Okay, so the next one we're going to talk about is Grammarly. This one saves my life constantly. So I'm studying at the moment, so I have to do a lot of writing, and grammar is not my best side and it can often be quite a difficult thing to fix. Most word processing apps and things do a good job of spell checks, but they're not that great at grammar. So let me give you an example. Yeah, so Grammarly is in essence a cloud-based tool which analyzes, whilst you're typing, the quality and the accuracy of your work, of your words. So I shall give you an example here. If I start writing, so this, the way of do it for me now, Grammarly. American English, British English, of course. Trying to think of an example to show you. Actually, it needs to be somewhere I can post. So I'm just going to click on new document just to give you an idea of what it would be. So say, for example, you run a WordPress website or something like that, and you're commenting, you're writing a comment, or you're putting together a blog post. This would actively in the background be monitoring what you're typing in. So if I start typing here, this is my attempt at writing very badly, and I am not using any punctuation at all, so please don't get exhausted. I will never stop writing. So you can see it's monitored everything and it's come up with suggestions. And what it does is it doesn't just tell you what's wrong, it tells you why it's wrong. And actually through using Grammarly, I've kind of improved just naturally where there's things I didn't even know were an issue. So in this example, I can just say, yeah, your correction is correct. And I can just click through and just say, yeah, that's correct. Badly should have been badly. Now imagine that this word, this with a double I, is actually a word that I need. I can add that to my dictionary so it won't now question that word ever again. What's also quite cool is it gives you a score. It gives you a score of how readable your work is, what kind of vocabulary you're using. You've also got a clarity score here. And one of the premium features is it will actually show you what style of writing you're doing, and it'll tell you how kind of accessible your work is. And it can help you create stuff that's more academic or stuff that's more editorial. Now, what's really cool is Grammarly are available everywhere. So they have this extension, but they also have an app on the Mac and on the phones. And they also have a keyboard that you can install on your phones and iPads. And that means it's just directly there wherever you're typing, not just in the browser, but on whatever app you're using, you can be using this to correct your grammar. I would say most people don't need to buy the premium version. The premium version really just gives you those advanced kind of writing stats and gets you the kind of the style analysis. For most people, the free version is more than enough. I think the premium version also has plagiarism checking. So if you are studying, that's quite a useful tool as well, just to make sure you don't accidentally fall foul of any rules. Does it promptly check during dictation, someone's asked? Yes, it will do. So whatever text is input, as quickly as that text is input, and if it's via dictation, it will still be fairly quick. It's almost instant. Sometimes it does struggle. Sometimes you'll have a 2 or 3 second delay just because it's using artificial intelligence. So it's all server-based work. So if your connection drops a bit, or if it's being used by lots of people all at once, then sometimes it can be a little bit slower, but it's almost always almost instant. But yes, it's one of those ones where until you use it, you don't realize how valuable it is and how much effort it saves.
Brad, with the free version, are you receiving the app and all of the items that you just showed us, the features that you just showed us with the free version and with the app?
Yes, yeah, I haven't paid for Grammarly. So yeah, you have unrestricted use for the actual grammar correction. It's unlimited. It's just the kind of style stuff that they ask you to pay for. So if you want them to suggest a better style for an academic paper, for example, then they'll charge you for that. But for most people, I don't think there's really any need to get the pro version.
You know, Brad, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Trudy.
And you say that it works with like some of the Apple apps. Will it work like with Pages or with Keynote?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I'll show you actually. If I quickly download the actual app itself, it works as like a little floating badge, which is quite nice. So it's very inconspicuous.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And
you use it, do you?
Yeah, I use it all the time. And but when the free version that you were showing us looked a little different than the one I have, the app. I haven't.
Yeah, so this is just the extension I'm showing you at the moment, but the app is a bit more. There's a bit more function in the full app. So the extension that I'm showing you is just for when you're doing stuff on the web. So if you're writing in a blog post or something, or commenting on Facebook or something like that, then it kind of kicks in. But the app itself gives you much more in the way of like using it with other apps. So if I open Pages, for example, it should automatically open a little badge.
Yeah, grammar is my weakness, and this has really helped me quite a bit.
do you know what? It's just one of those things which isn't really even taught at school anymore. It's just assumed that everybody should know everything about grammar without being taught it. So let's go in here. Come on, Grammarly, where are you? Oh, I think I just downloaded the same.
I think you did. I think you just downloaded it for Safari.
Yes, I did. Grammar. I need the actual Grammarly app for Mac. Where are you? I know, let's go on the website. It's probably a safer bet. Download Grammarly, it's free.
Someone has asked, does it work like inside Apple Mail or the Messages app?
Yes, I think the app does. The extension itself will only work with Safari. But then, of course, anything that you're logged into through Safari, it will work with.
Okay.
I think they, oh, thank you, someone's posted the link. I think with the app itself, it doesn't work with absolutely everything, but I think they've covered most of the most common kind of uses of it. So if I quickly install it here, open. Okay, it's telling me I've already got it somehow, so that's...
It works with MailChimp for sure.
Yeah, that's a good one. You always want your mass bulk emails to be accurate. That's okay, right. Continue for free. Yes, please. Yes, please. Go away. So here we go. Finally got my little floating ad. So it's this really nice little inconspicuous thing. You don't have this big window that gets in the way. So I can just be writing now. So if I go into here, this is the way I always wanted to write. Oh, of course, my Mac is also trying to correct things as well. So now it's telling me there's 3 problems. Click on there and you can just accept and go through each one, or you can dismiss and say, no, that's actually correct, or you can add to your dictionary. And what's cool is if you add to your dictionary on one device, because you're signed into a Grammarly account, even with the free version, it will sync everything that you've saved. So if you've saved a load of unusual words or acronyms and things like that into the dictionary, they'll be available on your phone as well, and they'll be available on your iPad.
Now, when you downloaded it, because the computer said you already had it installed on your system, do you have to allow full disk access in the preferences?
Yes, there is. I think it will still work without full access. But if we go into security and privacy, so if you go to full disk access, I think Grammarly has a, maybe not. I thought I saw it somewhere. It might actually be under accessibility. Yes, so under accessibility, you have to enable that. Because that's what allows it to be a floating thing that's not really an app.
Right. Okay, great.
Yeah, but you don't need to give it full disk access, which is cool.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. So yeah, you can choose American English, Canadian English, and Australian English as alternatives to the good old British English. And you can also tell it which apps you don't want it to work on if you ever need that. But I use it daily, and it's really, really good. I can't really suggest it strongly enough. So that's Grammarly. There are others available, but none have come close really to being that easy to use. And they're quite pricey as well, some of their competitors. So the next one's Pocket. I think some people might already be familiar with Pocket. It's probably, I think it's now officially the biggest bookmarking service on the web. And basically what it is, it's just a button that you can press on any website that you visit, and save your content to a central app. So if I go into Safari again, and let's visit, I don't know, let's go to medium.com. And let's have a look at 4 huge wastes of money that people still indulge in. Okay, so I've already installed the extension. So I've got my little Pocket icon up here. Click on there, save to Pocket. And of course, it's going to ask me to sign in. One thing I forgot to do. So Pocket was actually acquired by Firefox. So it's part of the Mozilla umbrella now. And I think they've integrated it into the Firefox browser directly. It's crunching my cookies. Come on. It doesn't like me. Does anyone actually already use Pocket? Is there anyone that's already familiar with it?
If you can please put your answer in the chat, we appreciate that.
And refresh. Oh, good. There's one. So I'm actually going to show you another one after this, which is similar to Pocket, which is the one that I actually use. I don't really use Pocket so much anymore. And I'll show you why. Oh, someone's used it for over 10 years. You're a hardcore Pocket user. Well, it's not having a good time. I'm just going to try signing in first rather than via the extension. That might be a better way of doing it. So I am signed in. I don't wish to upgrade. Okay, so let's refresh the page. Pocket. Still, oh, saved. Okay, finally it's working. So all you do is you click on the Pocket, and then here you can add tags. So I'm going to say story, article. Oh, I didn't actually click on it. That would help, wouldn't it? So here I'll say skills, read later, mum, and study. And then that's it. All you do is you click off and go on about your business. And that then gets saved back to your Pocket page. So if I go to, go to open my list, or just go back to the Pocket website or app, you'll then see the things that you've saved. Now what's cool is if you're saving articles, they should be available offline. So you can park stuff into Pocket and have it readable offline. You can also use Pocket to annotate things. So you can highlight parts of a website, which is quite useful if you're studying and you need to kind of analyze a web article or a journal or something like that. And you can edit the tags so you can easily find things, favorite an article, archive it just so it goes into a place that's not so prominent on your page, delete it or share it even. And then up here, you've also got reading options, so you can make it easier to read. So you can increase the font size, change it to dark, sepia, which is better for people that have dyslexia, for example, find that easier to read. So it's a very cool, but very simple app. And again, it's one of those ones which has premium features, but for 90% of what people use it for, they probably don't need those premium features. But again, if you do use it a lot, then it might be worth looking at what those features are. I'm not sure off the top of my head what they all are. I think most of the premium features relate to customization and being able to like install fonts and things like this. How is Pocket better than say, reading lists? Yeah, so that's just one option. You can literally save anything to Pocket. So it's not just articles. If I try and find something, let's do Naples, Italy. So if I go through to that picture, actually, let's go back to my list. Can you import bookmarks? Yes, I think you can actually. I think you can. I'm not sure whether that's a premium feature or not, though. Can you quickly check?
Brad, when you highlight with Pocket, are those highlights sticky when you come back to that page?
Yes, yeah. So they'll be saved in with that article, and I think you can still print them as well if you want to with the highlights, which is very cool. Why is this not showing me what I need? Pocket Premium. So Pocket Premium, ad-free, enhanced searching and tagging. Oh, okay, unlimited highlights. So you must have a limit then of how many highlights you can make with the free version. Yes. So what else is there? Yeah, so I think that's about it really with the premium features. But yes, I guess the real difference between the reading list and this is that the reading list is very specifically just articles, but this will capture anything you find on the internet and even like recipes. So if I go to Nigella Lawson, Britain's very own domestic goddess, and then add to Pocket. Go back to Pocket. My list. So it should, oh, it didn't in this case. It's supposed to recognize recipes and categorize them as recipes. The other difference is it also tries to suggest things based on what you're saving. So if you're saving a lot of articles, it will then start to curate this discover list to try and show you things which you might also be interested in. So it's also about content discovery as well as kind of saving things. And then it also, you can save a YouTube video as well, for example, and bookmark those in a more simple way. And then down here is the tags for things I might have searched for. So it's just it's very basic and it's very straightforward. But like I said, I switched to something else. So I use a more in-depth service, which is pretty similar. The one I use, I'll go back to my keynote. The one I use is called Raindrop.
Also an extension.
Yes, also an extension. So if I try and do the same thing again, so if I go to medium.com, it's also, they also have an app. So most of the time when you have an extension, there's usually a companion app that goes with it as well. NASA's new AI will terrify Putin. Okay. So if I click on my Raindrop here, so this is, I think, for people that need things to be a bit more organized and a bit more sortable. So with this bookmarker, I can make quite easily make collections. So I'll call this one political nonsense. And I'm going to save that. And then here I can add the tag, so politics. Sure. USA, UK, not again. And add that to favorites. So what you can do, one of the things that the reason I use this is I can actually create these collections. And if I go back, and it's tiny little things like being able to change the icons of things. So if I look for, I don't know, Rocket, that as my little thing there. But one of the cool things that you can do is when you share a collection, it actually will create a web page for your bookmarks. So this would be something that you could use for a group to have a collective bookmark page that people can access. Let me go back to it. Where did it go? I think I need to, where are you? Public page, collaboration, share, anybody with a link. So I'll copy the URL and I could say, this is Brad's page for sharing articles. Oops, save. So now I've made basically a website that will share all of the things I've saved in that collection. And it makes it very easy for other people to see your bookmarks. So I find that really useful, especially when I'm working with other students on a project, or like for your group as well. It might be a good way to share links with people and not have to send emails out to everyone. Someone's put, when you switch from Pocket, how does it handle your data so you can transfer to a new program? I'm not sure what you mean exactly by that. I think it's up to you to import whatever data you want to import. Can you elaborate what you mean by handle your data?
While Donna is marinating on that, in order to create this page, did you have to actually share it, or could you just have created it?
No, it just created it. It just created it. So if I go back into Raindrop, when I click on share, it just generates this URL here.
Okay.
And so whatever you create in that collection will be shared. And then, but you can make it collaborative as well. So you can send it as an email invite. And so collaboration means it's kind of Raindrop user to Raindrop user. Public page means it's Raindrop user to anyone who can visit that URL. You can see it's quite a complicated URL, so I don't think anyone's going to find it by accident. So you would have to obviously copy the URL and send it to the relevant people.
With the
you can also embed
collaboration,
it. So with the collaboration, it will be that the other people have to be a already registered Raindrop user as well. But this is quite cool as well. You can actually embed the list on your own website, your list of links and things like that. So it has a lot of stuff going on in there. So it's not as simple as Pocket, but I think it's a bit more flexible. And again, the only premium features really are, one of the premium features is it allows you to have nested collections. So within political nonsense, I could have another collection which is European, and then another one which is American, for example. Whereas with the free version, it only lets you have that one level at the hierarchy of one folder, one collection with bookmarks in.
Now, usually with collaboration, you can edit something or highlight something. Is that the same here?
Yeah, so once you've invited somebody to your collection, you've got the option here that can edit an invite or just view. So you can choose whether they can delete stuff and add stuff, or if you just want them to see it. But I guess I would say if you're going to invite someone to collaborate and you didn't want them to edit it, I would probably still do it as a public page, because that makes more sense to me, I think, for just viewing.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Donna's here. Donna, would you like to elaborate?
Yes. I remember, now this is a long time ago, but I remember that there was a problem, for example, getting out of Evernote, that it had all these wonderful features, but when people tried to move to another application, they basically lost their data. And the same thing happened with, I want to call it Notes, which is an Apple program. Similar kind of thing happened, where the data was programmed in a way that couldn't be used by subsequent programs that people switched to. And
Right.
the program went not out of business, but Apple gave up on the program, and so people had to give up on their data.
So the way the bookmarks data is collated is just with plain HTML. So it doesn't use anything that's proprietary or coded specifically for them. So the HTML bookmarks should always be exportable and importable. So anything that's in HTML should be fine.
Are you saying that that's generally the rule with any of these programs, that they be in HTML?
Well, I can't obviously speak on the 3 or 4 million apps out there. With bookmarks, yes, maybe not with other types of data, but with bookmarks, it's nearly always HTML. It's a file that's generated. Sometimes they will export them as an Excel spreadsheet or as a CSV file, but 99% of the time it's HTML files. The only thing you might potentially lose is if there's a very specific feature, like for example, the highlighting in Pocket, that might not be present with the files that you export, but the actual data itself should always be there.
Great, thank you. All right, all yours, Brad.
Thank you. So yeah, so I use Raindrop over Pocket, and I kind of switched about 2 or 3 years ago because of those extra kind of sharing features. And I just like that when you click to add something, you can add a lot more data all at once rather than just starting with tags and then having to go into the list and add more later. I like to kind of add as much info as I can whilst I'm adding it. So for me, I think this makes a bit more sense for me. And again, they have an iPad, iPhone app and a Mac app, so you can synchronize everything across all your devices. So let's go back. So Awesome Screenshot's the next one. So Awesome Screenshot is another nice little extension which allows you to capture screenshots of websites and annotate them as well. So if I go into this article, so you can see this is quite a long article. So if I tried to do a normal screenshot, I'd have to do it in several chunks. So instead, I can click on Awesome Screenshot and I can say capture entire page and it will scroll for me. And it's now captured the entire web page. Thinking about it. So there it is as an image. And then I can actually scribble and annotate on the image itself and write my own notes. Oh, bit of a delay. So this is different to the highlighting that was in Pocket because that's still on an active web article. This is just a an image that you can use for one thing or another. And then I can just say done. And then you've got the options there to save, print, duplicate, that kind of thing. So if any of you are ever having to work on a web project or make changes to something, it's a really good tool for doing that. Or if you just want to capture the whole of a web page without having to do lots of tiny little screenshots, it's a nice, quick, easy tool to do. And yeah, that's pretty much all that one does, but it's just a nice, handy little one. And someone saying, bummer for those who are on older OS. Yeah, it requires Big Sur or later. Yes, I mean, that's the nature of technology. You kind of need to keep up or keep out, as Apple would like to say. Yeah, I mean, Apple's rule of thumb is 4 years. So when Apple release a product, it's guaranteed to be supported software-wise for at least 4 years. So if you have a Mac that's older than 4 years, you're likely to start finding things dropping off the compatibility list, because that's Apple's sunset policy, they call it. Yes, so, and of course we have big transitions as well from one chip to another. So now everything's transitioning from Intel to the M1 and M1 Max Ultra Super Fast, whatever it's called. Yeah, so when you have those big technology transitions as well, you might sometimes lose access to things, mostly because developers don't have infinite resources and they have to concentrate on the here and now, and they can't keep going back and trying to recode everything that they do, which I think is fair enough, especially when most of these things are free.
You have a question from John Prescott. John, can you unmute yourself and ask a question?
Can you edit out chunks? I don't think you can. I think you do you mean like obscure, like blur and things like that? I think you might be able to do that.
I mean, so in the example you've got up on the screen, you've got a right-hand column. Could you just drag down and edit that out completely?
Yes, I think you can crop. Yes, so you can crop it out. And then you also have a blur tool as well. So if you want some text to be blurred for privacy, so it might have, I don't know, a bank statement or something, you can use the blur tool and just blur over some text like that, so you can hide something.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, thank you.
So it is useful for that kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely. Just found an alternative that works with Mojave or later screen capture. Yeah, I mean, most of these extensions have alternatives. I've just picked out the ones which are kind of the most popular. But yeah, almost all of these tools will have multiple iterations by other people that make them. I guess the hardship is when you choose something which is a bit more niche or a bit smaller, it's more likely for that thing to just disappear one day. Whereas these larger established ones, they will have a decent team behind them that are keeping them active and up to date when Apple does make changes. So it's about, I guess, weighing up the risk of where you're investing your time and effort into. So let's jump back in. The last one I'm going to look at is Zoho Notes, actually. This is an app which I really love, and it's probably, I think it's one of the nicest note-taking apps out there. I think it beats Apple's even. So Zoho Notes is a separate app, which I've got here. Where are you? Have a look.
This is not an extension, it's an app.
Well, this is an extension for the app.
Okay.
So I'll just show you the app quickly. So the app allows you to make proper little notebooks, which I like, and you can change the covers and things. So if I go into Apple, let's go into what's safe for me to show you. Web tips, everything. So what I like about this is it's very, very clean and straightforward. It's a lot easier to use than Evernote, I think. Evernote kind of suffers from feature bloat, and they just keep chucking more and more at it. So when you go to make a note in this app, you can either make a standard note, an audio note, a photo, a checklist, or attach a file. So I'm just going to do an ordinary note. And it's just a really clean interface. And you've got lots of editing options up here, adding links, tables, added a calendar date that you want to insert. You can change the color if you want something a little bit less garish. And then you can set a due date for something if it needs to be done by a certain time, and you can have them email you. So there's a lot of features in there. I'm just kind of glazing over because we don't have a huge amount of time. But what I really love about it is it's just, you get a real good snapshot when you look at your notebooks and your notes about what they are without having to dive in and out of everything. So I can really like see my stuff in a much clearer way. And their iOS app and Mac app is just, it's really, really good. But so when I'm browsing, so if I go back to, let's go somewhere else for a change, BBC. Let's try and find something not so depressing. Difficult in this day and age. News. Okay. Anything. Let's just hit there. So if I click on notes, it just allows me to instantly either take a screenshot again. So this is another tool that you could use to take a screenshot, or bookmark directly into a note. And I could say I want that to go into my web tips note, and then add a tag, advice. And I just really love its clean structure and interface. Was there any questions about Notebook?
Where did you get Zoho Notes again?
So Zoho Notes is on the Mac App Store, and you can get it directly from Zoho. Zoho is a big company that makes lots of business software, but Notebook is completely free. There's no premium features. It's just completely free. And it's a brilliant little app, actually. And they won, I think they won Mac App of the Year one year with this app. So it's definitely worth a dive into if you like kind of very simple and clean interfaces. They've even got a page down here saying this is a good alternative to Evernote, trying to compare the two. But yeah, give that a go. It's really, really cool. So that's the end of the extensions. Is there any general questions about the extensions that anyone might have?
I have one.
Mm-hmm.
Sheeta, is that okay?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Frank.
The extensions that you covered, that you go to the page and it'll do the whole page, etc. What about doing, you know, the thing in Safari that Apple has that gives you just the article itself and gets rid of all the floof? Do these extensions work with that operation?
They should do. Let's try. Let's go back into another. Oh, more depression. So if I go to show reader view,
yeah,
and then let's go to awesome screenshot, for example, capture entire page. Yeah, it should do. Can't see why not, because it's still the same data, just stripped of everything except the HTML. Oh God, no, don't do that. Oh, it's telling me I'm using too many things at once. Let me close a couple of things. My Mac is almost full. I don't practice what I preach. Yeah, so it's kind of converted it back into a page still, which is a bit annoying. So it didn't actually take a screenshot of the article. It still worked, but it didn't keep it in that format, because I guess it's Apple that's kind of labeling it with a cleaner interface. Okay, so yeah, that's that on extensions. The next thing I'm going to spend just the next 10 minutes talking about is the Shortcuts app, which is a fairly recent app that Apple released. It was actually a third-party app that Apple bought, a bit like Shazam. So Apple owns Shazam, and they originally bought that from a third party. And Shortcuts was also a third-party app that was on the App Store. When it first got launched on the App Store, Apple actually deleted it because it was almost too powerful and they didn't like how many things that it could do for people. And it seemed to dig a bit too deep into people's operating systems. So they weren't very keen for people to use it to begin with. And then the original developers obviously negotiated with Apple. And I'm sure in that process of negotiation, Apple realized how much of a big deal this app could be. Prior to Shortcuts, Apple used an app called Automator, which existed on Macs for a very long time, actually. It's still there at the moment, but I think it's going to be removed at some point. But Shortcuts basically enables you to do things which you can't natively do without these. I'll just give you a quick demo. So when you open the Shortcuts app, you have a gallery, and the gallery has just suggestions based on the apps that you've got installed and the way that you use your Apple devices. So Siri is actually used to suggest some of the shortcuts. So the gallery is a great way to start because you can just browse through and see what other people have made and see how useful that might be. So for example, let's try and find something interesting. Washing hands music, let's add that one. So I'm just going to click on the plus and I'll choose a song. Oh, I don't have any music on my Mac. Oh, let's forget that one. That would be helpful if I had some music. Well, I already added some. So for example, this one's quite good. I found this one yesterday. It's called Reflect on the Day, and you can search for it just by searching for Reflect on the Day. So all I do to run it is I click on play. And what this does is someone's created a little script, which is like a mini questionnaire. So it's, how do you feel today? I'm going to say great. And then why do I feel great? Because it's because I do. There we go. I'll do. Trying to be clever. What did you learn today? That I need faster broadband. What did you do well? Speaking to people all over the world. What do I need to do tomorrow? Buy some bread. Who can you help tomorrow? My mum. So that's now actually made a note and added it into the Notes app with my little daily review that I just did. So it allows you to just kind of automate processes, which can be a bit kind of time consuming. And yeah, someone's put you can create QR codes with it. Yeah, it's really useful for things like that. Some of the other ones I've got is passwords. So your Mac saves passwords in Safari and when you download apps and things in a place called Keychain, but it's not that easy to get to or find. And even in Safari, it's a few clicks to get there. So this is just a shortcut someone's made that when you run it, it just takes you straight to where the passwords are. You just have to sign in. Sign in with your Mac password. And it just quickly shows you your passwords rather than having to go into Safari and then go into the settings and the preferences and the right tab. Another one is quit all apps. Now, some people like to be, I'm not going to press that button now because that will terminate everything, but I just have that as a button I press before I can imagine, that I press that before I restart my computer, because sometimes, not really with Apple apps, but with some of the third-party apps, if you don't fully close apps before you restart your Mac, it can do weird stuff to some apps. So just to be sure, I press that button before I restart my Mac for any reason, or if I just want to quit everything and save a bit of memory, if it's getting a bit slow, I can just press that button and it will quit all the apps all at once. But in the gallery, there's just literally thousands of shortcuts. So you've got time tracking, home ETA, so how long it'll take before I get home, directions home, browse top news, make a PDF. Here's the scan QR code one, so I'll add that to here. Oops. So with everything that you download, you can actually edit and change how it works as well. So if I open Shakespeare insult generator, which I found, this is actually what's going on inside. So somebody has made up this with these, what Apple call actions. So if I run this, it's thou lumpish shard-born vassal. Okay, that's so any of these things you can actually edit and play around with and tinker with and create your own. You can create your own from scratch as well if you're brave enough. You can click on the plus button and then suggestions will kind of show you the most common things that you can do. So I'm going to say, let's say if I go to all actions, I'm going to say on a date. So I'll drag a date in there and I will say specified date. And I'll do it on my birthday. On a specified date, I want you to email get email address from input. Oh no, wrong one. No, let me change that to message. Send the message to Brad. So imagine my contact's in there. And I want the message to say, happy birthday. How sad. And then, oh, I haven't set up my messages account, but basically you get the idea. You can search all the different apps that you've got installed. You can have them triggered as well. You can have them triggered by location. So you can set you can create a shortcut, for example, that will send a message when you arrive at a certain place or leave a certain place. It's almost impossible to show you how many things that you can do with it. But yeah, creating a shortcut from scratch is just this plus button at the top. But I would suggest mostly going through the gallery and having a look at what people are kind of doing with it and what Apple are suggesting. But then some people do go really far, and lots of people are using them to automate parts of their businesses and all sorts of things. This one's an interesting section, share sheet shortcuts. That's not easy to say. So these are some shortcuts that Apple have curated together that are useful to use in the share sheet. So for example, let's add this one, read body of article out loud. So now that I've added this, it will appear in my share sheet. So if I go to Safari, let's go back to Medium, that's less depressing than the BBC. And if I now go to share this page, one of the options should be read this page. Where is it? Oh, it's supposed to appear in the share sheet. I didn't add the shortcut. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's in my shortcuts. It's... Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, well, yeah, you've hit on a problem there. So this was originally an iOS app, which has only just been added to the Mac. And so some of the stuff which is in there relates specifically to iOS. So I obviously didn't pay much attention when I was adding it. Also, you will find, because these are created by not just Apple, but anyone who wants to submit their creations, quite often some of them won't work, and you might have to tinker around with the actual actions that are inside. So for example, let's try this batch add reminders, add shortcut, reminders. play. Apples, cheese, stickies. So in theory, that should have now added a list of things to my reminders. There we go.
Mhm.
So it's basically just about removing steps and trying to make things quicker. So rather than having something that takes you 10 or 15 clicks, you can do it in 1 or 2. With most of the shortcuts, you can actually add them to your menu bar. So up here, I've got some quick way of kind of invoking the most common ones that I've chosen up here. And I think that's done in the preferences. No, where is it? Oh, it's in the actual thing itself. So with each shortcut that exists, you can press on the little more details button here, and then you've got the option to pin it in the menu bar. So rather than it just being a button that you come into the Shortcuts app and click, you can specify that you want it to be in the menu at the top just by clicking on here and then pin in menu bar. So now that's there as a quick option. You can also, where is it? You can have them appear in various places. Touch bar, that's probably going to go because, as we know, touch bars weren't very popular. And the Finder, so the Finder ones will appear as in the More section here. Can't find the Quit All apps in the Shortcuts gallery. Can you show how to create it? So if I go back to the Quit All apps, it should be in there. So this one is just quit all apps except, and then, so if I go here for quit, so you should have the option to just add quit app. And then you can say either choose a specific app, or on here we can say all apps. So you can be quite granular and see, so you can say quit this app, this app, this app, but not this app. So you can mess around with what it actually does. And then all you do is you run it. And then I'm not going to do it though, because if I do that, that will disconnect us. Okay. I would say it's much easier to get your head around Shortcuts doing it on your phone first, because there's a lot of stuff which is already built in, and you'll have a lot more apps on your phone to get your head around what you can do with it and the power of it. But that's just a really quick overview about something that most people kind of skip over or don't really know much about. Is there any questions about Shortcuts? It's quite a complicated one.
We don't have any questions other than the ones that you've already answered, but it is time. But it is time for us to end our presentation.
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for such a wonderful, informative presentation, Brad. Yeah. And it has been wonderful having you.